All right. What's going on? Hey, y'all, I'm going to give you a moment to join me this afternoon. Happy Thursday to all of y'all. Come on in. We're going to do some teaching today. As y'all come in, come on and greet me. I see some people coming in, but go ahead and greet me as you all come in. I would love to say hello to you. I would love to greet you. Let's see. Robert Marshall, what's going on? Let's see. Let us see. Ryan Booker, what's going on, man? What's going on? I think the topic today is going to be interesting because this is a convoluted um, topic, and yeah, I just believe that God is concerned about proper placement. Bree, what's going on? Good to see you. Um, Kyle, how you doing? What's going on, man? On Facebook, on YouTube, come on and greet me. I would love to say hello to you as we get rocking and rolling with today's topic. Again, I hope you all are well. I think we have a good topic. If you all can share or send this to some people or so that we can get rocking and rolling. Prophetess Alice, hello, good to see you. God bless you. What's going on, modern day Cindy? What's going on, my sis? Good to see you. I hope you're well, you and your family. God bless you. Kim Lewis, good afternoon. Good to see you, my sister. God bless you. I hope you are well. Come on in, guys. Go ahead and share. I don't want to stay on too long. I've been trying to be a little consistent this week about going live and just kind of dealing with some topics that I believe are important. Delana, hey, good to see you. Some topics and things that I believe are important to the prophetic, and just creating conversation around and also giving context to some things that I think we just use as far as terminology is concerned. But I just want to give more language so that we can have better clarity on a lot of these topics and subjects, so that we're just, in my opinion, more informed on these types of things. So I want to talk today briefly on apostolic prophets, apostolic prophets. And again, come on and greet me as you come on and greet me. I know for some of you it's the middle of the day. Some of you may be on lunch, it may be just getting off of lunch, or you may be listening and working at the same time. But I want to encourage you to tune in, and I'm gonna share some things that I just believe is gonna be a blessing to you. All right. So yesterday, I think it was yesterday, I went live yesterday, and I began a conversation about prophets and their responsibility to build. And if you have not listened to yesterday's live, it's on my Instagram page, it's on my Facebook page, it's on my YouTube page. I encourage you to go back and to listen to the teaching that I did yesterday on prophets and their responsibility to build. And as I began to teach through that and just began to think on some things today, there were a series of thoughts about prophets that ran through my mind. And I began to think about prophets who, in many regards, are just not called to help build. We talked a little bit about Haggai and Zechariah. We talked about Silas and Judas, how they went and they helped to build. Zechariah and Haggai, they helped to rebuild Jerusalem and the city, the temple, the wall in Jerusalem. And Silas and Judas, they helped to build in Antioch. But I began to think about how there's some prophets. Devontae, what's going on, man? April Wells, God bless you. Tina, good to see you. Good afternoon. I began to think about how there are a lot of prophets who are just not called to help build, but that there are a lot of prophets that are also called to plant. There are prophets that are called to establish. There are prophets who are called to create, right? I believe that there are, and this is one of the things that we gotta begin to talk about, and I'm gonna explain to you why as I continue on. But I believe that there are prophets who are graced to plant and to build churches. That there are prophets that are called to start networks and organizations. that there are prophets who are called to create worlds and ecosystems. And in many regards, I believe what we've done historically, at least in this generation, is we have almost made it seem as if the only person or the only type of gift that can do these things is the gift of the apostle. That the apostle is the only one that's called to create ecosystems and create worlds and to start networks and to build organizations and to plant churches. Alan Lewis, God bless you, man. I think you'll enjoy this teaching. Sierra Dent, God bless you. But I want to say that I want to explore what it looks like to be an apostolic prophet. I want to explore today what it looks like to be called as a prophet who's just not called to help build, but a prophet who's also called to establish and to plant and to create themselves, right? Many planting, building, and establishing prophets, a lot of them begin to receive prophecies about being more than prophets. I've seen it to where a lot of prophets are, once they get into the groove of whatever it is that they're building, now they start receiving prophecies about God is causing you to become an apostle. That now God is shifting your rank, or now God is elevating you to the office of the apostle, and all of those things. But I want to say that I've witnessed a lot of the convolution of these graces, right? I've witnessed a lot of the convolution of these gifts and these functions where it can become more unclear as to what grace these types of prophets are actually functioning in, due to the way we understand the fivefold, due to the way we understand even church function. Apostle Don Garner, God bless you. Robert Young, what's going on, man? Good to see you. Due to the way that we understand the fivefold and due to the way that we understand church function. And what I've seen is that many prophets who are planting and doing all of these things, they start getting words about becoming apostles because of their building nature. All right. They start getting words about God shifting their mandate, God shifting their mantle, because they have a building nature. And for some of them, they may be called dually as apostles and prophets, much like how we saw Paul, who functioned as a teacher. And then in Acts 13, the church released him that he can function apostolically. Likewise with Silas. Silas is identified in Acts 11 as a prophet, but then we see that later on in the letters of Paul, he identifies Silas as an apostle. So I do believe that you can function dually, what people may call, people may say that people may have dual graces. They may be, they can operate as an apostle, prophet. They can operate as a pastor and an apostle, whatever it may be. And that may be the case for some people, but I want to say this, that's not the case for everybody. And I believe that for many people, probably for most prophets that have a building nature, they are not called to title shift. They're not called to start trying to step into apostleship. And we're going to talk about what some of that looks like too, right? But I believe that many of them are called to be apostolic prophets. Can you do me a favor and type into the comment section, apostolic prophets? Apostolic prophets. Grateful to sit at the table to eat richly. Blessings to you. God bless you, Gregory. God bless you. Thank you. Can you type it in the comment section, apostolic prophets? All right. Do me a favor as well and share this. If you've been enjoying these teachings this week, do me a favor and share this so that others can get on. Apostolic prophets. Many people are apostolic prophets. Now, let me tell you what an apostolic prophet is. All right. An apostolic prophet is a prophet with some apostolic characteristics. Now, when I use the word apostolic just simply means to be apostle-like. I love teaching on apostleship and all of that. I'm talking a little bit about that today, but I'm going to primarily talk about it in order to bring clarity to the prophetic and to prophets, right? So an apostolic prophet is a prophet that may have some apostle-like characteristics, meaning that although they share similarities with those who are called to be apostles, they themselves are not apostles. So they may share certain attributes, such as planting, such as fathering, such as building, such as pioneering, such as reforming. They may share certain characteristics. They may know how to disciple and raise up teams and all of those things. And although they can do these things, it doesn't necessarily make them an apostle. They may simply be an apostolic prophet. Amen. And this is what we need to understand about the church. This is what we need to understand about the church. The New Covenant church, when I say the New Covenant church, I'm talking about the church that was established in the Bible. When we read through the Gospels, what Jesus talks about establishing his church, and then what we see in action through the books of Acts and through the letters that were written out of the church that we have as the New Testament today. What we need to understand about the church is that the New Covenant church has eternally been designed to be built upon an apostolic foundation. Okay. I want to make sure that this makes sense. The church has eternally been designed, meaning that it has been designed by God to foundationally and primarily function apostolically. Okay? To function apostolically. It was designed to be built upon an apostolic foundation, Ephesians 2:20. And God, it says that the church is established upon the foundations of the apostles and prophets. Even listen to the placement of those functions and graces, apostles and prophets. 1 Corinthians 12:28. And God has set in the church first apostles, secondarily prophets, right? Then thirdly teachers, and it goes on and on. And oftentimes when we look at 1 Corinthians 12:28, where it says first apostles, I know we see that word protos or proton, and it, first in order, rank, importance, and all of that. But I want to say this, more so than it being looked at as a military rank, it's looked at as foundational importance. So the church is foundationally called to firstly function apostolically. The church is firstly called to primarily in priority be foundationally laid as apostolic. When Jesus established his church, Avery, good to see you, man. When Jesus established his church, he didn't call 12 pastors. He didn't call 12 prophets, and prophets were predominantly governing the church or governing the old covenant world in the Old Testament. But he didn't call 12 prophets. He established 12 apostles. He got 12 disciples, went and prayed, according to Luke, came back and established 12 apostles. And he said, on this rock, I'll build my church, and the gates of hell will not prevail against it. He gave the revelation of Christ, the foundation, to the apostles. The church of Jerusalem, when you read through the book of Acts, the church of Jerusalem, their leadership would be described as the apostles and elders. And they went and they consulted, and they went and they met with the apostles and elders being those who had bishopric responsibilities as overseers, right? So apostleship is the foundation of the local church. And we're going to talk about apostolic prophets, but I have to lay this foundation. Look at what the first thing they did once they began to build the church, once the church was birthed and materialized in Acts chapter 2. When you go down to verse 42, it says, and they continued in the apostles' doctrine. Are y'all with me? They continue in the apostles' doctrine. So what we find is that an apostolic foundation was essential to the original design and the health of the first century church. I need you all to pay attention to this, because it's going to make sense why God has called some prophets to function in the way that they do apostolically. Yeah, I said prophets that function apostolically. All right. I'm just trying to show y'all the importance of first mentions, the importance of the apostolic paradigm, and how the writers of the Bible wanted to get us to understand the significance of an apostolic foundation. The first time in the book of Acts, let's talk about the book of Acts when we talk about the birthing of the church. The first time the word apostle is mentioned in the book of Acts is in the second verse of the book of Acts. Acts 1, verse 2. It mentions the apostles of Jesus Christ. But hear this. The first time the word prophet is used, as far as a new covenant prophet is concerned, or a prophet that's birthed out of the church is concerned, was 10 chapters later in Acts chapter 11, verse 27. And it says, and in these days, prophets came from Jerusalem to Antioch. Hear this. The first time the word teacher is used in function is in Acts 13. And there were certain prophets and teachers. The first time the word pastor or shepherd is used is in Acts 20, 28. The first time the word evangelist is used is in Acts 21, verse 8. So historically, hear this, the other gifts outside of the apostle, the prophet, the evangelist, the pastor, and the teacher were all raised up out of an apostolic foundation. We had 10 chapters of apostolic foundation before we ever hear of a prophet within the church. Are y'all listening? We have 10 chapters of an apostolic foundation before we even hear of a teacher or an evangelist or a pastor. So all of the other gifts, by design, were raised up out of an apostolic foundation. Is this making sense? Let me know if this is making sense. So the apostolic context has always been the intended place of development for the other gifts. The apostolic context has always been the intended place of development for the rest of the body of Christ. So when you look at biblically, I'm talking about biblically, not culturally today. Not culturally today. I'm talking about biblically. Biblically, when you look at new covenant prophets, when you look at the new covenant prophets' methods, when you look at their mandates, when you look at their measures of ministry, you'll see that they were influenced by the apostles' grace and by the apostles' doctrine. So in other words, all 5 ascension gifts were intended to be foundationally apostolic. Now, this is why the work of many prophets who have this foundation can resemble the work of apostles. Okay? This is why it can resemble the work of apostles. For example, this is why prophets can plant churches. This is why we see prophets developing teams. This is why we see prophets operating in miracles and supernatural wonders and signs. This is why we see them creating organizations and moving in a certain level of revelation and discipleship, and this is why you see them being able to create structure and developing certain contexts, right? Why? Because they understand that they've been raised out of an apostolic foundation. So because of that, this is what I'm getting to. Because of that, as the church today, when the apostolic foundation was removed, prophets start sticking to prophesying. They no longer were concerned about building. So now anytime we see a building prophet, we mistake them as an apostle. Lord have mercy. Help us. Help us. So now what we have to do today is we have to begin to identify other markers of differentiation. We got to begin to identify other markers for differentiating graces and gifts. Hear this: other than planting churches, other than building, and other than supernatural ministry. You can do all of those things and not be an apostle. You can function apostolically and not be an apostle. You can do all of these things and check off the checklist. But this is what Paul said. Paul didn't say, I am what I am because I plant churches. He didn't say, I am what I am because I work miracles. He didn't say, I am what I am because I've written letters or written books. He didn't say, I am what I am because I fathered. He said, I am what I am by the grace of God. All right. So from my opinion, anytime we talk about prophets as being, I titled this Apostolic Prophets. But in my opinion, an apostolic prophet is simply a new covenant prophet. A prophet that has been raised out of a new covenant foundation, where they were raised out of the doctrine of the apostles. So what was on these apostles' lives, or what was on the doctrine of these apostles that these prophets understand, now they have created paradigms that they can flow in similar graces based upon what God has called them to. Amen. So you can have apostles who are also prophets. You can have hybrids, what we call hybrids, or tribers. I believe in tribers. You can have gifts that function as more than one ascension grace or ascension gift, right? But then you have prophets who are not apostles, but they function apostolically. It's what I call a new covenant prophet, or what we call today apostolic prophets. Now, what's the difference? What's the difference? If we can't necessarily look at planting churches, we can't necessarily look at fathering or mothering, we can't necessarily look at some of the things that we identify apostles as. What we have to look at, and I want y'all to pay close attention, what we have to begin to look at is just not ability or achievement. We have to begin to look at natures and fruit. Can you type into the word natures? Natures. Every ascension gift is just not a gift. It's just not a grace. It's just not a function. It is a nature. It's a nature. I see it. Go ahead and type the word nature in. It's a nature. Irregardless of what you do as a prophet, irregardless of what you do apostolically, your nature will still be prophetic. Oh, my wife is on. Hey, baby. All right. What you do, or who you are, or your nature will still be prophetic. You plant church, but the way you govern your church screams prophet. You disciple, but the type of people that you disciple screams prophet. Your burdens scream prophet. Your vision screams prophet. Your desires, your passion screams prophet. Are y'all listening? Let me tell you some of the difference between prophetic, let me say this, apostles and prophets, without getting too much into apostles and prophets. Prophets, by nature, are concerned about making people aware of what God is saying and doing. One of the prophet's primary concerns, mandates, burdens, passions, is creating spiritual sensitivity among a people. So prophets by nature are concerned with making people aware of what God is saying and doing. So a prophet, if you take a prophet outside of the church and you put that prophet in their family, or you put that prophet, let's say you take that prophet and you take him to work. That now this prophet is on their job. That prophet is going to be more prone to seeing and hearing about the people there. That prophet is going to feel most accomplished in most cases, unless we're talking about hybrids and all of that. But listen, just hear me out. That prophet is going to be most accomplished by telling people, this is what God told me and this is what God showed me. Because what prophets are concerned about, and I don't want to make it so general, because I do know that there are different gift mixes, assignments, mandates, all of those things. I'm just speaking I'm just speaking in a general sense, okay? But what prophets want to give people mostly is God. Prophets want to give people God. They want to give people and the world the kingdom. They want the church and the world to experience heaven. Hear me. Which is why we need prophets in the church. Because without the prophetic in the church becomes mundane. It lacks the supernatural. People do not understand the necessity of hearing God for themselves and all of those things, right? But prophets want to give people heaven. But this is a difference between prophets and apostles. Apostles just don't want to give people God. They just don't want to give people the kingdom. They just don't want to give people, they just don't want people to experience heaven. Apostles want places and people to function, to look, and to feel like heaven. It's a big difference. Apostolic churches by nature are concerned with transforming culture through their influence. So we're just not giving you God. We want you to become like God. Amen. Now, can you be a prophet who understands the apostolic mandate? Yes. You can be a prophet and be intentional about indoctrinating transformation within your congregation. But let me tell you, for most prophets, that's not going to be your innate nature. Much like me, I am not a fivefold pastor. Okay? But what I've had to do, because I pastor, as a part of my responsibility and understanding of the apostolic church and how all five natures should be present within the church, I empower other pastors, but secondarily, I ensure that I put energy and effort into becoming more pastoral, even though it's not my first nature. Are y'all listening? Is this making sense to y'all? Do me a favor, share this teaching. I see people tag others in it, and share this on your pages, send it to people, okay? I think these differentiations are important for us to understand who God has called us to be, the type of people, the type of graces that we are, so that we don't find ourselves trying to function in something that God has not called us to. All right, let me go back, because I said this yesterday. I mentioned it today. It's about nature. You have to examine more than just results and activity. You have to examine nature. When people bite into your life, you know a tree by the fruit that it bears. When people bite or eat from the fruit of your life, what do they become more like? If people are becoming more prophet-like or prophetic, that speaks of your nature. If people are becoming more apostle-like or apostolic, that speaks of your nature. Now, one thing that I want to demystify, is the idea, and it's so confusing that people are still not understanding this. As much teaching and ministry that we have on Fivefold Ministry gives, people still don't understand this, that it doesn't matter how much you do, there is no way that you can grow into an apostle. You can't grow into one. You can't become one. You can't be promoted to one. You can't be elevated to apostleship. It don't matter how much of a checklist, and you look at all of the things that you feel like apostles do, and you put effort and energy towards those things. The checklist oftentimes opposes the discerning of grace. And we look at the checklist instead of discerning grace. And you can easily misplace somebody by looking at a checklist instead of discerning the grace upon their lives. They got to be an apostle. They plant churches. They got to be an apostle. They founded a network or organization. They got to be an apostle. They have hundreds and thousands of spiritual sons and daughters. Like, you know, and you look at the checklist and everything checks off except grace. Paul said, I am what I am by the grace of God. Galatians chapter 1. Paul, an apostle of Jesus Christ, not of men or from men. I believe, go down to verse 16. But when it pleased God, who separated me from my mother's womb and called me by his grace, that Christ may be revealed. What was he talking about? Paul is saying that he was called from his womb, from his mother's womb, as an apostle. And that apostleship was something that was revealed at an appointed time in Paul's life. So you can't become. You can't have somebody lay hands on you and you become. Are y'all listening to me? Some people are like, well, what about Matthias, who replaced Judas? The apostles appointed him. The apostles appointed him to replace Judas as one of the 12 apostles of the Lamb. But remember that although there were 12 apostles of the Lamb, Jesus had 70 others that he called apostles or sent out apostolically. Judas could have been an apostle, but then was called to sit in the seat that Judas was called to sit in to judge the 12 tribes of Israel. The apostles did not make Matthias an apostle. All right. So this is what we've done, y'all. I believe that we have convoluted and confused being charismatic with being apostolic. You can be charismatic and not be apostolic. You can speak in tongues and cast out devils. You can you can raise the dead and heal the sick. You can shout, you can dance, you can have prophetic worship. You can do and prophesy. You can do all of those things and not be apostolic. It just means that you've tapped into the charismatic nature of God, but not necessarily the apostolic nature of God. Amen. So at the core of the prophet, what do people become when they eat from your life? You know, a tree by the fruit that it bears. Likewise with the apostle, You know an apostle by their seal. Now, this is what I have to also clarify. The seal of an apostle is not just buildings and all this. The seal of the apostle is people. Can you type the word people into the comment section? Type the word people into the comment section. If you haven't shared this, go ahead and share this. Good to see some of my friends coming on. God bless y'all. Seal. Now, this is what we got to understand. The seal of the apostle is people, but hear this. The seal is just not the quantity of people that follow you. It's the nature of the type of people that are raised from your context. Jason McCoy, good to see you, sir. It's the nature of the type of people that's raised out of the context that you have created. What kind of people are being built? Because now what happens is you have prophets that plant works and they go by apostle because they have a following now. And because now they're pastoring hundreds or even sometimes thousands of people, now all of a sudden they think that God upgraded their grace. And now because they oversee a large quantity of people, now they believe that they are apostles. But my question to you is based upon that seal. Prophets have seals, evangelists have seals, pastors have seals, teachers have seals, apostles have seals. My question to you is, what type of people have become your seal? What type of people are being raised up? Or as Sierra said, what kind of people do you birth? Do you birth prophetic people? Do you birth supernatural people? What's their leaning? What's their angle? What's their nature? What is it depicting? What has rubbed off from your influence onto their lives? Have they become more supernatural in nature? Have they become more evangelistic people? Have they become more didactic or teaching in nature? Have they become obsessed with becoming students and learning? Have they become arrogant? I've seen a company of arrogant people be raised out of a certain seal. Have they become apostolic people? Are they consumed with societal transformation and reformation and the culture of heaven influencing the culture and, hallelujah, the culture of the world? And these are the fruits that should be examined. It's okay. Hear me, especially prophets on here. Hear me. It's okay to be a prophet and to build without having the pressure of becoming known as an apostle. It's okay. Type that into the comment section. It's okay. It's okay. It's okay. It's okay to be a prophet and build without the pressures of becoming known as an apostle. Stop allowing people to morph you into something that God has not sanctioned or designed you to be. Because people in their ignorance will start calling you apostle. Because they don't know what apostles do outside of build and plant churches and all of that. They don't understand what apostles do. So in their ignorance, oh, this is apostolic. God has called you as an apostle. No, I may be an apostolic prophet, a prophet that is called to function with some apostolic qualities or apostle-like qualities and vision and patterns. It's all about your nature. I am, Paul said, I am that I am, or I am what I am by the grace of God. It's about your nature. The essence of your nature is the evidence of your calling. Let me say that again. The essence of your nature is the evidence of your calling. I've had people prophesy to me about being an evangelist. I was listening to some prophetic words from years ago the other night. And one guy was prophesying to me. He said, "You're an evangelist. You're very evangelistic." And I'm listening to that. Okay. That is one of my least functions. But what if I was ignorant concerning what evangelists are and what they do? I'll be walking around thinking I am an evangelist based off of what an ignorant person prophesied to me or told me. The essence of your nature is the evidence of your calling. All right, I've taught for about 40 minutes. My goal was about 20, but I went over by, times 2. Listen, I hope that this blessed y'all. You know what I'll do, Alan? I'll leave 10 minutes open right now for questions. Okay? I'll leave about 5 to 10 minutes open for questions. Apostle Brenda, good to see you on, woman of God. God bless you all the way in the Bahamas. God bless you. Listen, I want to invite y'all Saturday, September 30th, to my prophetic intensive that I'm hosting in Park Forest, Illinois. You can register. Go to my website, register. It'll be myself and Apostle John Eckhart will be my guest, and we'll be doing sessions throughout the day. It'll be from like 10 a.m. to like 3 p.m. The calendar, the schedule, and all of that is on my website. The topics on my website. We'll be dealing with understanding new covenant prophets and prophetic ministry. We'll be dealing with identifying prophetic witchcraft. We'll be dealing with breaking the prophetic identity crises. And with that one, some people are like, well, what is that? Well, I think that it's important that we talk about the difference between your personality and prophetic characteristics. Because what we've done a lot in the church is we have made graces based upon personality traits. And it makes people that don't have certain personality traits, but that may be called to a certain grace or function or gift, feel like they're not qualified or equipped for it. So we got some amazing sessions. We'll do Q&A. We'll do activations. We'll be training and developing believers to hear the voice of the Lord and to prophesy and all of that. Go to my website, isaacwatsonministries.com. You should see it in my bios, both of them on Facebook and on Instagram. Register. It's very affordable. If you're a leader, I encourage you to sign your teams up. If you have prophetic teams, sign them up. Seating is limited. So at a certain point, I have to cut it off. But I encourage you to register. It's one day only, September 30th, next Saturday. Meet us. If you're out of town, if you're out of the country, if you're not able to get to us here in Chicago, we have an online option as well. You can register online. You can view live, and you'll have access to the replays as well of these sessions and teachings. All right. Let me go ahead and answer some questions that I may see. And again, only 10 minutes. Let me see. I'm looking on both. Instagram and Facebook. I want to answer questions about this. And also share this video. Share it on your pages, tag people in it. Let others that you know would benefit from this teaching. Let them know and see. Apostle Brennan said, how do you respond to someone who says the Lord says to affirm them as an apostle? God didn't confirm this to you. Well, I think that, for one, some people will be offended irregardless of what you say to them. And I think if someone comes to you and tells you that God told you them to affirm you, or God told them that you should affirm them, that's pretty bold, for one, right? But I think an easy way to deal with this, and I talk about this in my book Misplaced when I'm dealing with the prophetic. I talk about how callings, I believe, should function through witnesses, meaning that it's just not important for God to talk to the end. I think it's most important for God to talk to you about what God has called you to. But God should also speak through other witnesses. If you're the only one that thinks you're something, you might be deceived. Because again, you know a tree by the fruit that it bears. So if God has not spoken to you about it, then I would point them back to the word. I believe that it comes from the witness of leadership. If I lead you, if I know your life, if I know your graces, and if this is not a grace that I have seen operating in your life, not to say that you don't even operate in the grace, but if it's not a grace that I have seen either operating in your life currently, or grace that I see that you are in a mature enough place to be affirmed in it, and placed in seats of influence within that context, then I'm not going to do it. Why? Paul told Timothy, do not lay hands suddenly on anyone. So you would be operating with a lack of integrity by commissioning or affirming someone as something that God has not spoken you to about. So if God didn't confirm it to you, then you can't do it. And if they don't understand that, then that just also shows what's in their heart as well. Now there are other things. For example, if there's potential there as a leader, as an apostle or a church plant, or someone who a senior leader, there are things that you could set in place in order to allow them to explore the thing that God says that he has called them to serve in various capacities, to see if there is prophetic potential there as far as them possibly being prophets. And then through the process of time, it'll either come up as true or not true. And if true, if you feel led, if God has said so, then you can move forward. I would say that it should be okay to move forward with God's approval, of course. I think that's a great question, especially as a senior leader. Okay. Well, Alan, just message me or something then. When I say Alan, I don't mean everybody. I mean Alan, message me, please. Ryan, will you continue these live videos daily until the class? No. I'm not doing anything next week. I'm celebrating my anniversary with my wife, and we're going to be enjoying each other. So take advantage of them this week. All right. Thank you so much, Apostle Brenda. Let's see. Don't get in trouble, Delana. Let me see. I think people who can't bear to not be affirmed. Yeah, that's true. Okay. All right. Okay. So I don't think I see any other questions. I don't think I saw any on Instagram. So listen, again, I want to encourage you to wait. I think this is a question here. Oh, okay. So this is a new function on Instagram. Well, for me, a new function that I don't get on here. Someone said, Augustus Stewart said, what do you do if well-respected leaders from another country see the grace God has called you to, but your local leader refuses to impart in you because they know you as an ex-gang member? I think that's a nuanced situation, because the questions that I would have to ask is, what is your relationship with that international leader? Does that international leader know you? Do they know your life? Have they seen the fruit of whatever it is that they are affirming you as? Right? Um, do they have a relationship with your local leader? Those are questions that I would ask. I think that if your local leader will not affirm you in something because of your past, and that is like fact, like not, and that's not like something that you have just come to the conclusion of, but it's something that they made known to you, then I think that there's a problem there. Okay. If that's not something that they made known to you, and that's an assumption based upon how you feel like they interact with you, I say have a conversation with them. If you are in a place where you feel like they should affirm you as something, you should also be in a place where you should have where you should be in a position to have a conversation with them. Because if you're willing to let them lay hands on you, my assumption is that you have some level of relationship with them. But I think it's nuanced. I don't know if I can answer that completely in depth. That would probably need some time to kind of walk through. All right. Someone said, how do you know if you're hearing from God? Okay. How do you know if you're hearing from God? So I would say this. When we talk about hearing the voice of God, the Bible says that my sheep know my voice. We have to understand that there are always different voices. There are always different voices that are speaking. You have your voice, you have the voice of demons, you have the voice of culture, you have God's voice, you have the voice of angels. You have different voices that can speak to you all at the same time. The simple answer is you learn and become more familiar with his voice the more time you spend with him. And you grow in your ability to hear his voice through obedience when you do hear his voice. Okay? But let me tell you this, God's desire is for you to hear his voice. All right. Good question. Let's see. Maybe 3 more minutes. What would the evidence or essence of hybrids be? I think with hybrids, when we talk about fruit, we talk about nature's evidence and the essence. I think with hybrids, for example, if someone is dually a prophet and an evangelist, I think that you would, when you eat from the tree of their life, you would receive both, or you would receive either or, depending on the nature of your relationship with them. Like, for example, if someone's discipling you, and depending on the nature of that discipleship, I think that you would be able to receive from either or of those graces, or you can receive both. I think congregations, let's say, like, if it's not necessarily one-on-one, but it's holistically a congregation, and your leader is a hybrid apostle prophet or teacher prophet or whatever it may be, I think that congregation will in essence be the build out of what God has called that leader to be in some regard. So you're going to have the fruit of both, whatever those gifts are. If it's prophet, if it's teacher prophet, if it's apostle pastor, whatever it may be, I think the congregation will be able to benefit from the dual grace, to where they will be able to eat and become both, or receive from the nature of both of those graces. All right, so I think that's a good question. Let's see. All right. Okay, so if I don't see nothing else, I think I'm done. All right. Again, I want to encourage you, register for Prophetic Intensive, IsaacWatsonMinistries.com. I will put the link in the comment section. On Instagram, the link is in my bio. Click on my name, go to my bio. And if you don't follow me, go ahead and follow me on here as well. And on Facebook, on YouTube, visit my website. I'll put the link in my bio, or well, it's in my bio, but I'll put the link in the comment section. I want to see you again. If you can't make it to Chicago, I encourage you to be a part of the online option. And again, it's very affordable. Okay. It's very affordable. I've intentionally made it affordable so that people can be a part of it, so that they can learn and grow. I love impartation. I love teaching. I love giving my life to people, and just seeing them grow and flourish based upon what God has given me. So I would absolutely love to see you on the 30th of this month. My church is in Park Forest, Illinois, in the south suburbs of Chicago. Encounter Worship Center. I encourage you to check us out as well. Follow us as well. God is doing some amazing things in and through our local assembly in Park Forest. All right, listen, I love y'all. I pray you all have a great rest of your day, and we will see you all next time. I want to invite you, come visit us at Encounter this Sunday, 3 p.m. We will not be streaming indefinitely. We will not be streaming. So if you want to check out what our church is doing, you have to come in person. All right. Listen, I love y'all. I pray y'all have a great rest of your day, and I will talk to you all.